So now let's talk about the bells of Tartaria. Now, bells are not just bells. Bells are something like a magical wand. It could be used, the tones could be used to build something up, or those tones could be used to tear something down because they put off a frequency and a vibration which can be manipulated in many different ways. Now, what you're looking at right here is an AI generated image that I asked to create. And this shows various buildings with these peaks, and within those peaks are bells. Now, a lot of these buildings right here, they would have certain geometric symbols on them. So the buildings itself would manipulate the ether. But you have to get that ether moving or get it aligned in movement, if that makes sense. So what would they use? They would use bells. And these bells would send off a frequency, a wave, and it would put the ether that was, or the energy vibrations that were coming off of these buildings and that was in the air, the bells would put it in motion. The waves, the bell waves, the wave of the vibration, it would put these things in motions. But not only that, a lot of these buildings, or these old buildings, they had catacombs in them. What are catacombs? These are where they would have the human remains, the bones, placed up under them. And sometimes they would place those bones inside of whole grids, like it may be a whole small row of bones that they would use to go from one spot to the other. Why would they use bones? Bones are crystals. They are natural crystals, and bones are being produced every day. People are every day. So they would use those bones to create an energy grid. So now they had these buildings set up in geometric symbols or geometric patterns. They would have bells in some of them, and then they would hit those bells, and those waves would get the ether in motion. And that ether was often bounce off to these things, these buildings, and give off other energies. But it doesn't stop there. Sometimes they would have different bells with different tones in them. See, a lot of those bells that they had that you may see the old pictures of those bells, a lot of those bells were made of alloys that we can't even duplicate still to this day. Right, can you imagine that? So they would put off certain frequencies. Now, what was the first thing I said? Those bells are like magic wands. Some of those bells were used just to transfer pure energy, the tone. But they would also have bells with certain tones that could activate your memory and make you remember who you was. But everything has its polar opposite. They also had bells that could make you forget. They could erase your memory with those tones. Imagine this. Just imagine. Imagine if someone decided to walk the path of the deviants back in the days, and they started to use those bells, the tones of those bells, to erase the memory of the people. And then they took all the bells down and made sure no one else could use them to resurrect the memory of the people. I'm just saying. This is technology that could still be used today. And see, the light waves, when you see buildings like here, when you see arches and domes like this here, it has its own standard colonial wave, meaning that when the sunlight hits it, it bounces off and then you have sound to manipulate that. And see, many of you might not want to believe that, but here, even today, they have devices that emulate those tones, but you do not hear them. And they could be used to cook your insides like a microwave, waves. And they have things that can erase your memory, right? Technology, they have that technology today. As soon as I stepped back, the clock kicked in, like, what time is it? Yeah. Those bells, man, were very powerful. And they were very useful. They were used for good and bad because often they would be used to clear out the air. In case there was a bunch of negativity going on, those sound, they would have certain bells at certain tones that would vibrate and clear out the air. This is why when people used to get married and when they would come out of the church bells would ring. They're clearing the air, giving them a brand new life. And man, think about it. I've been around for a minute. When I was younger, on Sundays, you would not just hear the church bell near you. You would hear the church bells ringing from my area on Stickney. You would hear them on LaGrange. You would hear the church bells other parts of LaGrange. You would hear them over all the way, the church bells all the way over on Summit. These are miles apart, y'all. They were radiating the air. They were putting off energy. And then think about it. Sometimes you would see churches and they would have two domes and they have two different bells in them bad boys. And see, now, we were really to go in deep to this conversation, and then we had to go into cavity magnetrons and all that stuff as well. But I'm going to save that for a later date. The next video that we're going to do, we're going to talk about the giants and how they used to work with regular sized humans. If you want that conversation, hit like and say, yeah, let's go there. This is your man, El Judge. Peace and blessings. I hope this helped. And let me give you a peek. Oh, yeah. If you want to talk about this, let me know.